All right, so if you're watching this video right now, you're probably somewhere in the realm of real estate of struggling to make that first dollar or struggling to scale to the point where you can leave your job or get closer to whatever your goal is. And if you're anything like me, there is one reason among everything else that goes on, all of the difficulties, all of the struggles in real estate, there is one reason that you are being held back. And when I was getting started, my first year, $0. I didn't make any money. My second year, I made my first dollar. And then on my third year, I crossed 7 figures in net profit. And so in this video, my goal is to talk to you about exactly what that thing is and have you at the end of this video leave knowing how you can solve that problem right now, today, to get back on track. And I'm going to show you how I did it so that you have a perfect example of what you can try and go do. Or maybe not a perfect example, because I'm certainly not a perfect example, but you can at least see what it actually looks like. So let's talk about the mistake itself. If you haven't already guessed it from the title, that mistake is shiny object syndrome. I hope I know how to spell the word syndrome. We'll see if that's correct. Shiny object syndrome. It's the number one thing that I talk to people just like you about all the time, because shiny object syndrome is what is holding you back. And you may be about to click out of this video because you're like, oh, I don't have this problem. Stick around, because there's a lot of different things that you may be missing where you're convincing yourself that it's not the problem, but really it's creeping in from the back and actually holding you back still. That was my story, right? Shiny object syndrome. So what do I mean by shiny object syndrome? Well, it's really, really easy to think about in the world that we live in today. It's simply being distracted from what you are doing, what you're supposed to be doing, what your current goal is, to go spend time, mental space, effort, money on other things that are new or more exciting or look easier, right? And I could give so many examples of what this looks like in both real estate and outside of real estate. Outside of real estate, super easy one, crypto, NFTs, stuff like that, right? Oh, I'm over here investing in long-term stocks because that's the right thing to do, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can put $20 into this coin about a dog and become a millionaire overnight. Well, let me go put all of my time and effort into that. And again, everything I tell you here, it's my story, right? I have been sucked into all of these things, real estate or not, and I used to spend so much time trying to make money on crypto and stocks and all that other stuff. I'm not saying you can't do it. My point is, those things detract and draw away from what you're already doing if you're on the right track, right? Same thing can be true in real estate. You are doing one thing, and then all of a sudden you hear about this new co-living strategy, and it's the greatest strategy ever invented, and how did nobody ever think of this sooner? Guess what? That's not a real thing. If it's the greatest, long-term, safest strategy, it's already been done, and you are just getting distracted by other things where somebody's going to try and charge you money, or you're just going to get distracted from what you're actually doing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do co-living, doesn't mean you couldn't go buy an RV park. None of that is true. The whole point of this video is to help you understand what will actually happen when you do the most important thing that you can do. What's the opposite of shiny object syndrome? Focus. When you focus on one thing, your life will change. And to prove it to you, I'm going to show you exactly what this looked like in my life just a few years ago when I was still just getting off the ground at zero, right? Now, here's a timeline of everything that I've done, right? When I got started in real estate, I was wholesaling. And then I moved on to multifamily. So larger properties in the multifamily space. Then I moved to rentals. Started trying to buy some rentals. Let me see if I can get a better marker. Trying to figure out how can I rent these things out? How can I get these to other people? All that good stuff, right? Then I moved back to wholesale. And then finally, I moved to the money side of the business, funding, trying to fund other people's deals, right? And as you can see here beside me, behind me, I went through all those things, and I had some other, phases here and there in between that stuff. Now, why does this matter? When I was getting started, I found wholesale as the thing that other people were doing. Sounds easy enough. Let me give it a shot. Then I started hearing people talk about multifamily, and I was like, wait, I could do this, but it's 100 times bigger. So let me shift all of my time into that. And then I was reminded by people, well, the whole point of real estate is to build long-term wealth, right? And to do that, you got to buy rental properties. So then I jumped to that. Then I jumped back to wholesale because I realized those things were too hard. And then I jumped to transactional funding because I realized that I hated wholesaling. Now, here's what I want to point out to you with each of these things, right? How long do you think that I stuck with wholesaling before I switched to multifamily? It's about 3 months, right? And then how long do you think I stuck with multifamily before I switched again? Same thing, 3 months. And you can probably sense a pattern here. Started looking into rental properties for a few months, then I jumped back into wholesale for a few more months. And what I was doing was I was getting sucked in from shiny object syndrome. And there's a lot of other little things in there too, right? Like buying businesses. So many people, there's this whole craze over the past couple of years of like, you can buy a business with no business experience for no money down, and it just retires your family, and you can go sit on the beach. And again, big shocker, that's not actually true, but it's a shiny object because all of us are in the position we're in, struggling, and things are hard, and then you see this person over here that's telling you that it's gonna be easy, and you're like, oh my gosh, let me go do this easy thing. Why didn't I think of that sooner? And then that gets hard, right? And then you hear another easy thing, and you're like, oh, I must have missed it last time. Let me go do this other easy thing now. And the cycle continues. And so I'm jumping month to month, thing to thing, and here's what I'm really doing and what you're really doing when you do this, right? I'm gonna erase this because I want to actually give you guys one of the most common examples. Looks like I got stuff all over the board, but hopefully we can still see. So here's one of the most common examples of something else that can grab you with shiny objects. So you may be like, oh, I'm not jumping around, right? I'm not doing what you were doing, Ryan. You sucked at that. I can do way better. Well, here's another thing that I see every day. Right over here, we've got somebody wholesaling, right? And then that wholesaler is like, yeah, you know, on the side of my wholesale business, I'm also building a transactional funding business. I'm funding people's deals, I'm wholesaling, life is good. Well, that's not usually what happens. Usually it's more like I'm trying to fund deals and I'm trying to wholesale deals and I'm just trying to make my first dollar. But either of those scenarios, the same thing is true, which is what? People want to convince themselves that you can do everything, right? You can do both, you can do either or, maybe you try to do 3 things, 4 things, 5 things. And what happens is, I had a phone call once, right? This is a great example. I had a phone call where I had somebody come to me and say, hey, I'm spending 50% of my time on wholesale and 50% of my time on transactional funding. And I said, okay, cool. Well, how's that going for you? What does that look like? Well, I haven't made any money yet in either one, but I feel like I'm giving myself a better opportunity to make money by doing both, right? I'm doubling my chances because I could get a wholesale deal, I could get a funding deal, could get both. So I'm doubling my chances. Very common scenario that people run into where they're like, oh, I don't have shiny object syndrome, but yet they're still not focused. Because what happened here? Well, their idea was that if we combine these 2 things, it's going to 2x the chances of them to succeed by doing 50% wholesale and 50% funding. And I said, okay, cool. So what happens if you're focusing on funding in the morning and wholesale in the afternoon, but you get a call from a real estate agent in the morning on a deal? Are you going to take it? Of course, right? What about if you're doing funding in the morning, but you have a deal come in, a funding request in the afternoon? Are you going to vet that deal? Are you going to run through it? Are you going to try and fund the deal? Yeah, of course, right? And so what happens? Well, because you're not focused on one thing or the other, not only are you actually splitting your time back and forth a lot, you know, if you ever have like a 10 or 15 minute break, you never fill that with actual activity and getting things done. You just end up kind of like, I've got this weird gap of time. Or let's say you have a job right now, right? When you get back after lunch, you probably are kind of like, oh, let me slow roll, check my emails a little bit, then we'll see if we can get back to work. That's what's happening here. Because when these people say, oh, I'm going to double my chances, what's really happening is they're cutting them in half. Because the focus is gone. You're trying to do multiple things at once. You're not locked in on one thing. Your results suffer. Now, let me give you an actual example from my business with real numbers so that you can see why this is so important. So this was me, right? This was my business. I was trying to wholesale, I was trying to fund, and I was doing both, right? And I've got a video where I actually talk about the fact that wholesale takes up about 95% of my time and funding takes up about 5% of my time. And at the time of recording that video, I think I was gonna make about $10,000 that month with wholesale and $10,000 that month with funding. Now, if you look at it, obviously you can be like, well, 5% of your time is making you 10K and 95% of your time is making you 10K. Why the heck would you not do more of that? Well, you know, there's a lot of things that go into having a business, so it's not as easy as just do one or do the other, but at the end of the day, it was that simple, right? It was me splitting my time, and what was happening was, obviously I'm not splitting it 50-50, but so much time and effort is going into both of these things that I had to choose one. Now, thankfully, I chose correctly for me, based on the time allotment and also based on personal fit. And what happened, so this was in January of 2024, okay? So in January of 2024, I made the decision that I'm gonna do this full time. Now, everything from there was just perfect. I just made $1 million, no, it wasn't perfect. But what did the timeline actually look like? Well, if we look at January, I was making about the same in both of these, right? And what happened, directly as a result of what you are seeing on this board, what happened was that in February, switch markers again. In February, I lost $20,000. Why? How the heck did I lose $20,000? Well, the reason was because the month before, because funding takes a little bit of time to see the results, the month before I was spending so much time, I was so stressed out with my wholesale business that I wasn't focusing on what the heck I was doing in my funding business, which by the way is incredibly stupid. If you are handling money, you should be doing a lot better than I am, or I was, right? And so I lost $20,000 that next month, but I now had 100% of my time focused on the funding business to bring it back. And so from there, in March, we went back to profit. In April, it improved to about 15,000. And by May of 24, I had hit my first $25,000 month in profit with this funding business. So over doubled, right? What I was doing here, I beat what I was doing here, I over doubled what I was doing here, and then the compound effect took place because yeah, in May I made $25,000 and it continued to go up from there to now the point where we are doing consistent $100,000 months, which I didn't even know was possible when I was getting started with this stuff, with less time and less stress than I had wholesaling. Now, this is not to say funding is perfect, right? I think it's perfect for me, but it's not for everybody. The point of this video is to show you what happened when I actually focused and said, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna do two things, split my time, different contracts, different contacts, different people I'm speaking to, different phone calls, different requirements, different leads, and trying to put them in the same place at the same time. It's just not logical. And there is so many examples of why you shouldn't be doing this. And then there's like 2 examples of actual successful people who just do a bunch of stuff, right? And then people convince themselves, like, they're like, Elon Musk has a rocket company, and he has Tesla, and he has this solar company, and he's doing everything at once. Yeah, you're not Elon Musk. Welcome to the real world. If you were, you wouldn't be watching a video of mine, okay? So, assuming you are not Elon Musk, why is it so important to focus? So that you can get rid of this confusion when you're getting started, and later down the road, your focus can shift as your focus isn't required as much on the original thing, right? I've been able to branch out a little bit from funding because my funding business now runs itself to a degree, right? So my focus is drawn away from there, and now I can place my focus on the next thing. It doesn't mean you can't do more. It doesn't mean you can't add to it, but it does mean that you can't try and do everything at once or you'll end up getting nothing done. Now, what are some examples? Let me get this erased. of what you can do from here, right? So maybe you're watching this and you're like, that's totally me. Maybe you're like, I don't know if this really relates. Well, the first question to ask yourself is, how do I make a decision on what I should be doing, right? There's a couple things that I use to help with that. First one is personal fit.
And see that.
AKA, what's your goal? Different people have different goals, right? And one of the hardest parts about answering and understanding this question is short-term versus long-term, okay? Because everybody says, oh, I want to build long-term wealth and financial freedom for my family, right? And that's a great goal, but there's going to be a few steps between where you're at now and getting to that goal. And so it may not mean that you just go start buying rental properties one a year for the next 10, 15 years or whatever it might be to reach that goal. It may be 10xing your income to be able to do that, right? Turning active to passive. And so there's multiple steps to this, and that of course becomes kind of the harder part of all of this stuff. But that's step one, is finding what your personal fit is. If you're watching this video right now and you are somebody who is doing multiple things, why? Write down what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it's impacting you, and if you had to choose one, like pause this video and think, if you had to choose one of the things you're doing right now, which would it be? If you're somebody that is focused on one thing and you're not sure if it's the right thing, but you don't want to fall into the shiny object trap, then do this. Write down what you're doing, just like before. Write down what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then look at other people who are doing that thing and ask yourself, are they living the life that I want to live? If you have the exact same goals as them, you want to accomplish the exact same things, and they are living a life that you want to live, whether it's the freedom that they have, the luxuries that they have, the family that they have, the time that they have, then you can go replicate that thing and get rid of everything else. Turn off your dang YouTube, change your algorithm, get rid of your social media, whatever you have to do to put the blinders on and say, I'm going to focus on this one thing and I'm going to get it done just like the people that have come before me that can do the exact same thing. So find that fit for you. If you're not happy with what you're doing, there's a difference between jumping ship every few months and actually looking for the right fit. The question is not, should you be moving to something new? It's why are you moving? So if you are going to move, all you really have to uncover is that personal fit. Okay? When I switched to from wholesale to funding, it wasn't because funding became a shiny object for me. It was because funding, when I compared the two, fit in better with my lifestyle, better with my goals, and was more accessible in my current position. That's the difference. You can shift what you're doing, but you have to know why you're making that shift. So number one, figure out your personal fit, what you're headed towards. Then, number two, what do you have to remove in order to focus on that thing? This is a tough one. When I shut down my wholesale business, that's not just a snap of the finger, not at all. I had to figure out what I was going to do with the people I was working with, the leads that we had, the pipeline that we had, all the calls we had already done, the money that we had spent. So many different things came down. And what I had to do is I just had to figure out, okay, what are the steps I have to take to remove this business? It feels overwhelming until you write it down. So get it down. If you're switching from business to business, or you are going to finally say, I'm going to focus on this one thing, get written down what you want to get rid of and how you're going to take the next best action step to get rid of that thing. That's number two. And then number three?
Gotcha.
All right, very good with that. Shoot.
Don't stop. Shiny object syndrome will always be a thing. Bitcoin will go up and everybody will talk about it. The newest real estate magical strategy that's not actually any different than anything else is going to come up and you're going to feel that pull. It's been true with Airbnb, then it was true with arbitrage, then it was true with co-living and RV parks and mobile home parks. And all of these different things are going to continue to tug at you. But until you find the thing that has worked consistently and is your right fit, you're never going to get to the goal that you're looking for. And so if you're watching this right now and you are splitting your time, there is one good reason to do that. And I want to make this incredibly clear for you. You need, please hear this, you need active income. You need income that is predictable to pay your bills, because that is what human beings need. And so many people, and by the way, you can do whatever you want, just to be clear, but so many people are like, I'm going all in, I'm burning the boats, I'm just gonna have no income and I'm gonna make wholesale work. I'm gonna make these rental properties work. And guess what? Things happen. Charges come up. Roadblocks will come at you. And you gotta have active income to be able to handle that stuff, okay? To be able to fix your car, to be able to pay to fly home for the holidays. You gotta be able to have the ability to do that. And so what is not shiny object syndrome is keeping your job and trying to build your side hustle, your business, your entrepreneurship journey. Please keep both of those things until you are in a position where you no longer need your job. Jobs are the security, if you have it. And if you're somebody that's doing multiple entrepreneurial ventures and one of them is actively producing income and one of them is a startup, you haven't gotten it going yet, it's the same thing. That's not shiny object syndrome if one of them is producing the active income you need to survive. Keep that thing, build this thing until this overtakes this and you no longer need to do that. It's not shiny object syndrome. So keep what you're doing that's making you money, and either stick with just that thing or use this process to really narrow down what it is you should be focusing on to get closer to your goal so that you can remove that thing. If you're somebody watching this video that's doing a bunch of things at once, you do whatever you want. What I can tell you is that what I showed you on this board about how my income went from $10,000 to over $100,000 a month, and more importantly, money does not matter nearly as much as the peace of mind that I had removing all of the stress of trying to do multiple things at once, trying to grow multiple businesses and being so confused along the way. You can't even measure the effects of that. But if you have that thing and you can hold on to it and you can focus on the prize and not get distracted, which may mean getting rid of your social media or just convincing yourself that what you're doing, if you stick with it long enough, will work just as well as anything else. And then just don't stop. If you can do those things, you will succeed because you cannot fail unless you quit. And if you keep switching what you're doing, you are quitting on the opportunity to reach your goal a lot faster than if you keep jumping ship. I hope this has been helpful. Write this stuff down and take action on it.